My daughter-in-law is a worthless woman. Evelyn's voice shattered the hospital hallway like a cracked mirror. What good are you if you can't even give us grandchildren? I sat frozen in the hard plastic chair, the medical report trembling in my hands. Irreversible infertility. Those words blurred as my eyes welled with tears. My body felt numb. My breath stuck somewhere between grief and shame. James stood beside her, my husband, the man I thought would hold me through anything. But instead of love or comfort, all I saw in his eyes was disappointment. My name is Victoria Turner. I was 28 years old living in Portland, Oregon when I learned I could never have children. Polycystic ovary syndrome. Too far gone. Too late. We spent a fortune on your treatments. James muttered like I was an investment that had failed. He didn't even look at me. Evelyn's words cut deeper than any scalpel. I told him to marry someone better. Someone who could actually do her duty as a wife. I had loved James since college. I gave up my life to become what they wanted. I worked part-time at a vet clinic, cooked their meals, cleaned their pristine home, endured Evelyn's constant barbs with a smile that grew heavier each year. Maybe we should consider adoption, I whispered. Evelyn laughed. Cold, cruel, adoption. You think we want some stranger's mistake in our family? The whole point is the bloodline. And then James said the sentence that would end our marriage. My mother's right, Victoria. This changes everything. Everything I'd sacrificed. Every Sunday roast. Every holiday I arranged. Every ounce of myself I gave to their name, suddenly worthless. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't family. I was broken merchandise. And when I asked through cracked lips, "So, what are you saying?" Evelyn leaned in, smug and satisfied. You better start thinking about what you offer this family now, because right now, you're just taking up space. We walked out of that hospital in silence, but deep inside me, something had shifted. A voice I hadn't heard in years whispered, "They think they've won. They have no idea who you really are." But the real betrayal was still coming. The car ride home was silent. James's knuckles gripped the steering wheel like he was bracing for an impact that had already happened. Evelyn muttered under her breath about defective women and wasted time. I sat in the back seat like a child being driven home after a bad report card. But this wasn't a school. This was my life unraveling. As soon as we got home, Evelyn called James's father, Henry, to share the tragic news. I could hear her from the kitchen how she painted me as some deceiver who lured their poor son into marriage without ever mentioning my damaged body. She probably knew something was wrong before the wedding, she said. Some women just trap men like this. I sat there clutching the doctor's report like it was a death certificate. My marriage, my place in their family, dead. James walked in and sat across from me at the kitchen table. His tone, not sad, not soft, businesslike. "Victoria, we need to talk about our situation." I tried to reason, tried to salvage something. We could explore IVF donor eggs adoption. No, he said, cutting me off like I was a client asking for an impossible refund. "My mother and I have discussed this. We think it's best if you move out." That's when it hit me. He wasn't just breaking up with me, he was evicting me. "This is our home," I protested. "No," he corrected, "it's my family's home. You were part of that because you were supposed to give us a future, a real one. You didn't. So, why stay married?" I was stunned. All I could do was whisper. "You want a divorce, I want you gone," he said. "Take whatever personal items you brought, but the house, the car, they stay." Evelyn stood in the doorway like a villain finishing the final act. "We've been more than generous. We gave you a home, paid for your treatments, and what did we get in return? Nothing." I wanted to scream, to break something, but all I did was nod. They gave me until the next evening to leave. I had no family. My parents died in a car crash when I was 19. James and Evelyn had been my everything, or so I thought. That night, I booked a motel by the airport. The wallpaper was peeling and the sheets smelled like bleach and regret. I lay there staring at the ceiling, repeating the same question over and over. How did I let it get this far? The next morning, I returned to pack. Evelyn hovered like a vulture, making sure I didn't steal anything that belonged to the family. Wedding gifts claimed, dishes from my late mother. "We've grown fond of it," she said with a smirk. I didn't fight her. I didn't have the strength. I took my clothes, my laptop, and my mother's ring, hidden in a jewelry box they hadn't noticed. As I dragged my suitcase to the waiting cab, Evelyn delivered her final blow. "You were always too needy. James deserves someone with breeding, not a sad little orphan who was never good enough." Her words could have destroyed me. Instead, they liberated me. For the first time in years, I was free from their grip. No more fake Sunday dinners, no more comments about my body or womb, no more pretending. I was done being their broken toy. And what they didn't realize was I had just started rebuilding. I spent that first week sleeping in motels, my dignity tucked inside a thrifted suitcase. I had $67 in checking, $800 in a savings account James didn't know about, and 0 people to call. But I had one thing Evelyn and James never expected: grit. On Monday, I called in sick to the veterinary clinic. Dr. Martinez, my boss, was kind, but I kept things vague. I wasn't ready to say, "Hey, my in-laws threw me out because my uterus didn't come with a receipt." When I showed up that Friday to beg for more hours, Dr. Martinez surprised me. "Victoria, we've been thinking of launching a mobile clinic, house calls for elderly clients. You'd be perfect to lead it." It wasn't just a promotion, it was a lifeline. I threw myself into it. Built routes, made connections, ran reports. My old self, the one who had died in that hospital hallway, was coming back stronger, sharper, smarter. I found a tiny studio apartment with cracked tiles and a view of a brick wall, but it was mine. I filled it with plants and peace and silence. No Evelyn, no judgment, just me. I was still healing, still mourning the life I thought I'd have. But for the first time in years, I felt possible. Then the phone rang. Unknown number, Seattle area code. "Is this Victoria Turner?" "Yes." "My name is David Morrison. I'm a private investigator hired to locate you about a matter of inheritance." I laughed. "I think you've got the wrong girl. I don't have any living relatives. You were born Victoria Lynn Turner, March 15th. Parents Robert and Helen Turner." "Yes." "But, Miss Turner, your father had an older brother, William. They had a falling out in their 20s. He passed away recently and left his entire estate to his only living relative." I sat down on the floor. "You mean me?" "Yes, ma'am." William Turner was a tech entrepreneur, sold his company 3 years ago for $47 million. You are now the sole heir to approximately $52 million plus properties in Seattle and Vancouver. I dropped the phone. It wasn't a scam. David met me the next day with an attorney and a manila folder thicker than Evelyn's ego. Inside proof, and a letter from Uncle William. "I searched for you for years after your parents died. I saw your wedding photos online, saw your name change. I tried to reach out, but your in-laws made it hard to find you. I wanted you to know you're not alone. You've never been alone." I cried the way I hadn't allowed myself to, since the day James looked me in the eyes and told me I was a waste. William hadn't just left me money, he left me dignity, a reset button, freedom. It took 3 months for the inheritance to go through. I didn't tell anyone. I kept working, kept living in my shoebox apartment. But inside, I was building. The day the funds cleared, I was no longer just Victoria Turner, the infertile ex-wife. I was Victoria Turner, the woman who had the power to remake everything. The first thing I did, I bought a home. Not a mansion, not some showy revenge palace, just a gorgeous modern house in Portland's Pearl District. Glass walls, natural light, clean lines. It whispered elegance. It said, "I don't need to prove anything to anyone." The second thing, I honored what saved me animals. Using $2 million from my inheritance, I launched the Turner Foundation for Animal Welfare. Free veterinary care for low-income families, grants to no-kill shelters, emergency response vans. Everything I wished had existed when I was struggling. People noticed. Invitations started arriving, galas, board meetings, nonprofit panels. I sat at long tables next to people who respected me not for my name or womb, but for my vision. That's where I met Alexander Kane, tall, sharp-minded, and annoyingly gentle. He ran a green energy startup and volunteered on animal rights boards. When he asked me to dinner, I said yes before I could remember to be afraid. Weeks later, sipping coffee at a local spot, I told him the truth. Not the polished PR version, the raw one, the infertility, the exile, Evelyn, James, the nights in motels, the casserole dish, the broken woman I used to be. He didn't flinch. They threw away someone extraordinary, he said. Their loss gave the world back the real you. That was the night I stopped surviving. That was the night I began living. 6 months later, Alexander proposed at his mountain cabin. No flash, no cameras, just the scent of pine and firewood and his voice saying, "I want a life with you, however it looks, wherever it takes us. You're not broken, Victoria. You're perfect." We married quietly under a canopy of fir trees, just friends, no Evelyn, no judgment. And when we shared our dreams, adoption came first. 2 children, siblings, forgotten by the system like I had once been forgotten by family. We filed the paperwork immediately. But before our new family was complete, there was one thing left for me to do. Something that had burned in my chest for 3 years. Show James and Evelyn what I had become. Not with rage, with poise, with power. With proof that everything they threw away had grown into something they could never touch again. 2 years into our marriage, we got the call. Our adoption had been approved. Twin 4-year-olds Grace and Michael, siblings, fragile, curious, full of questions. When we brought them home, they clung to us like we were gravity. Watching Alexander arrange Grace's stuffed animals, reading Michael his first bedtime story. That's when I understood this was real family, not blood, not legacy, not control, love. Around the same time, the whispers started. David Morrison. My private investigator turned close friend dropped the first bombshell over lunch. The Wilson dealerships are under investigation. Odometer fraud forged service records. It's bad. I didn't gloat. Not at first. But then he said something that stopped my breath. It's been going on for years, Victoria. Likely even during your marriage, meaning the money they used for your treatments. Stolen. I sat back stunned. All those times Evelyn threw their generosity in my face. All those lectures about how they gave me everything they were using money they never rightfully earned. The irony burned so beautifully, I almost laughed. That night, as Alexander and I tucked Grace and Michael into bed, I told him everything. They're going to lose everything. And when they do, I want to be there. He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. Then let's make it unforgettable, he said, kissing my forehead. The bankruptcy hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, downtown Portland, 9 a.m. I wore a dark emerald suit tailored to perfection, hair pulled back, poise locked in. Alexander walked beside me in navy blue, calm, magnetic solid. I carried 2 things, a portfolio with adoption approval and photos of Grace and Michael, a letter from Uncle William. We entered the courtroom. There they were. James, sunken eyes, wrinkled collar, hands shaking. Evelyn, hair frizzed, face pale, her lips pinched into permanent disapproval. They were whispering with their attorney, flipping pages, drowning. I walked by them slowly, deliberately, made sure my heels echoed. James looked up. His face shifted in waves confusion, recognition, shock. "Victoria," he whispered. Evelyn turned. She froze. She took in the suit, the glow, the man beside me, the air around me that said you were wrong about everything. "Hello, James." "Evelyn," I said, like we were bumping into each other at Whole Foods. "Lovely morning, isn't it?" I walked past them and took a seat near the front row. Opened my folder. Let them see the adoption papers. Let them wonder who I was now. Let them ache. The hearing began. The judge read through their assets, or rather lack of them. The dealerships were gone. Their house sold. James was facing fraud charges. Evelyn was being investigated for conspiracy. I didn't need to speak, I just needed to be seen. And as I caught James glancing at Alexander, as I saw Evelyn's eyes flick to the adoption papers in my lap, I knew. They finally realized. The woman they'd called worthless, the woman they discarded like trash, had become untouchable. The court proceedings sealed their fate. James was sentenced to 4 years in prison for fraud. Evelyn fined, disgraced, and left with nothing but a cashier job at a grocery store, whereas I heard she spent her shifts avoiding eye contact with anyone who might recognize her. Their empire gone, their name tarnished, their pride publicly shattered. And me, I walked out of that courthouse hand in hand with the man who saw my worth before the money. The man who looked at Grace and Michael like they were the greatest treasure on earth, my family. That night, we sat on the floor of our living room, our kids building towers of blocks, the fireplace humming softly. And I thought, this is it. This is what love looks like when it's real. Not bloodlines, not breeding, not legacy, just chosen love. Unbreakable. True. Evelyn once told me I was broken, that I had nothing to offer, that I was a sad little orphan. But what she didn't realize is I was the beginning of something they could never control, never own, never silence. They saw me as a defective woman. But the truth, I was never defective. I was never disposable. I was a wildfire, and they handed me the match. I used their rejection to build a life full of purpose, passion, and people who actually saw me. Their cruelty gave me the courage to stop trying to earn love and start creating it. So to anyone out there who's ever been told you're not enough, that your worth depends on your ability to please produce or perform, they're wrong. You are not broken. You are not a burden. You are becoming. And when your moment comes, stand tall. Let them watch. Let them choke on every lie they ever told you. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Tell your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Like if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal, power, and ultimate comeback. This was Victoria Turner, and this was how I won.